a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in studio this morning, Mr. Drew Goebel. We follow up the Monday night Clinton Board of Education meeting. Mr. Goebel, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Seth.
Thanks for coming out and talking with us. And a Monday meeting this time around. And I learned on Monday night that apparently you cannot have a school board meeting on an election night. So
yes.
we had to move it to Monday.
Yeah, we did. And I'm glad I caught that because, yeah, they just passed that January of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of caught me by surprise. I didn't normally, a lot of times and something like that, I might get an email from ISBE or something, but I did catch it. We were able to get that switch. So we were in compliance and, but yeah, so it was just moved back one day and it all worked out.
Very good. Well, let's dive into that meeting on Monday night. And I'll tell you what, Mr. Goebel, what were from your perspective, highlights of Monday night's meeting? How about that?
Yeah, not a real, like you said, not a real long meeting. We have to, we're going to be accepting bids for our insurance for workers' compensation. We use the insurance cooperative, the ICMRT. We have a local agent here with Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
We switched to them a couple years ago, and they've been fantastic. We've been very happy with that. So we're going to bid out that. Probably the biggest thing on the agenda was the board approving next year's Lincoln and Douglas principal. So that's probably the largest thing. We did transfer some money. We do that every year about this time, and then we did approve IHSA, which is our high school sports membership, and that was approved. But again, the hiring of or the approving of Keith Creighton was probably the biggest thing that was on that agenda, and I'm really excited about that.
Tell me about Mr. Creighton a little bit.
Yeah, he is from Decatur. He works at Dennis Elementary School. He's been there. He was a teacher at Dennis before becoming their assistant principal. And I think that speaks a lot about him, that he was from Dennis, and then they moved him up to that assistant principal spot. And he's been their assistant, I believe, for 7 years. And I think that was very appealing, not just to me. When we hire principals, it's not just my decision. I'll make that very clear. We have a committee. So there is equal representation from different teachers at both schools. We try to, I tried to get, some a kindergarten teacher and like a special ed teacher, and Kara Jensen, the assistant superintendent, she was part of that decision. And then Carrie Veldman, the director of special education. So collectively, we all met, and this go around, we had an amazing, I would call it applicant pool, the people that applied for this position. So it was a tough field, but Keith was clearly the winner. He did an amazing job in that interview.
What do you like about him?
Well, he does come from Decatur, which has some, and I actually worked in Decatur before I came earlier on my day. So Decatur is a great school district, but there are some challenges. So some high needs, some at-risk kids from Decatur. So he has that background. Clinton, we have some tough kids, some challenges here. So he has that as a background. His knowledge of curriculum was very impressive. So his background, and not just dealing with students, his background in curriculum and instruction and teaching, I felt that his experiences and his answers in talking about that was very impressive. But having those 7 years as an assistant principal, and really, I think you almost don't call it the expression like cutting your teeth, but getting your working with kids with conflict. I think when you are an assistant, it really helps you become that principal at some point in your career. And having those 7 years as an assistant, working with a principal, working with kids, then working with teachers, I think that really helps prepare you when you are ready to make that next step. And that came through when he interviewed. So in many ways, I think I think he's going to be an excellent fit. Something that was unique to him was that he has right now, as everyone knows, Lincoln and Douglas is combining, and we're moving from neighborhood schools to attendance center. So he's experienced that when he was at Dennis, where there was 2 different campuses, and he's kind of bouncing back and forth, and then the staff coming together, which is we're in the midst of that. So he's lived that, he's experienced that. He has been through having 2 staffs moving together, and that's what we're doing. So
sure.
So I mean, honestly, there's so much that he brings to the table that I think is going to help Clinton make that transition. Because so next year the grades and the teachers will be combined. So I would say a lot of the hard work, and I just want to acknowledge the work of the teachers and that we've been doing in the last couple years to make this move, to make this. And it is a huge thing. This is combining those schools has been talked about for, I would say, probably a decade. And, we're doing it, and change is difficult. So having Keith Creighton, having him come in and take the reins and get us through this, I think he's going to be an excellent addition.
Will he have an assistant principal?
Yes. So that is another new thing that we will have next year. For years, I think the teachers have wanted and expressed the desire to have an assistant principal. We had those 2 different campuses. So my thought was when all the, if we could snap our fingers and have a new school, that would be the time that I thought we would have an assistant principal. At that point, we can't snap our fingers and have a new school. So, moving the teachers together, the kids together, I thought that would be a good time to have that. So that is the next
item on the agenda.
And actually tomorrow, Keith is coming up, and the meeting to start. Kara and I are going to meet with Keith and start that next steps, the planning and doing all those different things to kind of help Keith hit the ground running. He's so he'll be prepared, but there is a lot going on, and we just want to make sure that he is successful.
Very good, very good. Well, on that note, Mr. Goebel, obviously the hiring of a principal for Lincoln and Douglas School was on the agenda. Talk a little bit about, you mentioned, and this is an annual item, but it was a little bit more this year. $5 million from working cash to the educational fund. Just kind of lay this out for us, and what's going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. So every year, Clinton, going back for years and years, we've always transferred money from our working cash, which is our savings account essentially, and we move that into the education fund. And that's really because how our levy is set up, and we don't levy. We're probably the lowest tax rate in the education fund. So we have all these different funds, and then there's a tax rate that's connected to all these different funds. So what we levy in the education fund is very low. It's actually the lowest that I know of. So, but we have money in the working cash, which is another fund, and we are able to transfer that over. So at the December meeting, we passed the levy, and I knew that we were going to have to transfer a considerable amount of money from the working cash into the ed fund based upon our fund balances. So we levied less in some funds, which allowed us to levy more in others, which allows us to then move that money. So we're going to do that probably for the next couple years, because there is economic development in DeWitt County. Consolation, just the elephant in the room, having that sign that extension at 20 years, that's going to be an increase in our EAV. Even things like Quickwall coming to town, and Meyer, and different houses like subdivisions. So all these different things that are happening in Clinton over the next few years is going to increase the property value, and that is how we fund school districts. So in the next couple of years, that EAV is going to increase, and then I won't have to move this much money back and forth because the amount of money coming in will change. So,
okay, gotcha.
So essentially, this bonding plan is only for a couple years
Okay.
to get us to that point.
Gotcha. Very good. Well, on that note, Mr. Goebel, anything out of the meeting on Monday that we didn't touch on you want to put out there for us?
No, I like I said, it was a very short meeting.
Let's do more of those.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, things are going well.
Yeah.
Our we continue to have our restructuring meetings, and like I said, that first getting the principal hired, that was probably a big step. But we're cruising right along.
Sure, very good. Well, on that note, we'll take a break, come back with more. Mr. Drew Goebel, Superintendent of Clinton Schools, my guest in studio today. Follow up the Monday night Clinton Board of Education meeting. More to come with Mr. Goebel on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Wednesday. I'm Jim Taylor on the RFD radio network. Corn, beans, and Chicago wheat all starting the day in the green. May corn opening 456 and a quarter, up 2 1/4. July corn 468, up 2 1/2, and December new crop 483 3/4, up 2 pennies. May beans 1160 and a quarter, up 3 1/4. July beans up 2 1/4, 1173 1/2. And new crop November, 1137 1/2, up 6 1/4. May Chicago wheat 597, up 7 1/4. May KC wheat 614 3/4, up 8. May bean meal 312.10, up 40 cents. May bean oil up 67 cents, 66.61. Energy market April crude oil 98.01, up $1.80. Opening numbers on this Wednesday morning. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
This is
March into Baum Chevrolet Buick and march out with a new Chevrolet. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City. We have over 20 Silverados to fit your daily work needs in 1500, 2500, and 3500s in gas or diesel, all sale priced. Also, check out the Colorado pickup. This size and maneuverability may be another option as well. Chevrolet, together, let's drive. Baum Chevrolet Buick. Right from the start.
Here's Matt Hart, owner of the Hart Media Group in Clinton, talking about continuing to serve the community through new ownership.
Things came together and we reached an agreement to purchase. And as you mentioned, we closed August the 1st. So that's August the 1st. Miller Media Group is now Hart Media Group. And we're continuing to serve the people of Clinton and DeWitt County and Monticello and Bloomington and Decatur and everywhere, because we'll just keep connecting people as we've been doing.
The Hart Media Group looks forward to continuing to serve the community for years to come.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in studio today, Mr. Drew Goebel. We follow up the Monday night Clinton Board of Education meeting. And Mr. Goebel, I know we talked with Mrs. Jensen kind of more about what instructional coaches do, but those were on the agenda on Monday night, and approved. How about that?
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. Yeah, we had Elizabeth Pirtle, who is currently a 3rd grade teacher. She was hired to be the instructional coach, so she's an internal person that is going to be helping. And then we have Cassie Mann, who is also from Decatur. Actually, Cassie worked with Keith, who I just talked
no kidding.
About.
Wow.
So they know each other.
Yeah.
And which is good. I think even in the relationships are so important.
Yeah.
So they already have an established relationship. Actually, before we made that final decision to hire Cassie, I called Keith, and Keith had already been, we'd already chosen him to be the principal. It just hadn't been board approved.
Yeah.
But we knew that Keith was going to most likely be that person. So I spoke with Keith about Cassie.
Oh, interesting.
And he spoke very highly of her, and she interviewed very well. So having those two positions, just an additional support help things out. And so, yeah.
And you're telling me that Keith has connections to your staff in Clinton already, right?
Well, just, what do you mean by that?
He knows, well, Mr. Ranstead came from Decatur.
Yeah. So yeah, Keith knows, and I did not know this when I set up the interviews. I don't know who knows who.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so Keith knew Mr. Ranstead, the current principal at CES, and he also knew Becca Ewell,
Uh-huh.
the assistant principal at CES. And he also, I think he worked with both of them for a brief amount of time. And then he also, Stacy Witz, the assistant principal at the junior high. So now after he was part of the applicant pool and I dove in a little bit, I did reach out to those three people just to kind of check on things. And, they all
do your due diligence.
They all spoke very highly of him. So yeah,
Sure.
we had those connections.
Sure,
and,
cool.
And I think doing those reference checks are important.
Yeah.
And he clearly checked out.
And I tell you, you see a lot of significant turnover like this, where you've got a principal that's leaving a building and and then you've got to hire an assistant principal. I know you had that a couple years ago with CES, and from the outside it's like, oh my gosh, there's turmoil, people are leaving and we've got to, you're finding all these positions. But speak to just kind of working through that, there are processes in place to take care of these things. How about that?
Well, so when Sasha Young, she was the principal a couple years ago, she is now the superintendent of Central A&M. So that was unexpected. I didn't know she was even looking. So so when that happened, Paul, we did have a principal in between, but then Paul's been there now. So at any point, even for teaching positions, if I know somebody, when I was the principal at the junior high, if I know a teacher is going to be retiring in a couple years, I kind of got my feelers out because I would like to not just go into it completely blind. And so you're kind of, and I think that's probably with any career profession. If you have a position that's going to be opening up, you definitely don't want to just have something decided, but you want to be kind of just be looking around to see what's out there. And even I've had people share with me, hey, this person, let's look at that person. Let's look at that person. So all those different things are happening because you don't want to be caught by in surprise. So you want to have your options open. But at any point, and that happens a lot, if you have an opening and someone says, hey, right now we have a PE position open at Lincoln School. So I've had a person that I know that is knowledgeable about PE people with her career, and this person reached out to me and said, hey, take a look at this person. So that just, and I think that probably happens in any profession. If you're going to have an opening, people are suggesting or saying, hey, look at this person, look at that person. But again, in the end, when you make those decisions, it's a committee. So the whole committee is looking at somebody, not just, and I think that's good. Not one person should be making such a big decision.
Sure.
And also at the end, the school board gets to make that final decision. So the committee, we chose Keith. We like Keith, but at the end of the day, on Monday, the school board had to vote to put Keith in that spot.
Sure.
So that's kind of the process.
Yep. Well, back to our original discussion there, Mr. Goebel. Instructional coaches, Cassie Mann coming in from the Decatur School District. Elizabeth Pirtle will be transferred from third grade teacher to instructional coach. And we had Mrs. Jensen, your assistant superintendent, in on Monday. So if you're interested in kind of what that role looks like, she did a great job breaking that down and kind of telling us what's going on with those. So check that interview out on Facebook and YouTube if you're so inclined. And I tell you, Mr. Goebel, as we wrap up here for this morning, I don't have a ton of time, but if you don't mind, I'd love you to weigh in on, it looks like cuts to mandated categoricals, particularly transportation, are coming at some point. What do you know, and how's Clinton bracing for this?
So fortunately, our in our transportation fund, we're in fine shape. We're not hurting in that particular fund. And again, I've talked about this many times. When the state gives school districts money, it's not just one big lump and you just get to spend it however you want to spend it. It is put in different buckets. So one bucket is operations and maintenance. So if there is a major work that needs to be done and on a facility, I can't reach into the transportation bucket and pull money from my transportation bucket and fix the roof. Same thing. The fund that needs the most amount of money is the education fund. That's we pay our teachers, we pay our support staff. That fund gets the most money, and that makes sense. So you can't reach into different buckets. So in the bucket of transportation, we are in good shape. We purchased brand new buses several years ago. The current transportation director, Stephen Page, he's a certified diesel mechanic. So something that he requested when he came in is to purchase a lift to lift the bus up so he could fix a bus. So so if a bus would happen to break, our district has a certified diesel mechanic that can fix a bus. Not every district can say that. So our buses are fairly new, but we also have a mechanic.
Yeah.
That if there was a problem, can fix it.
So I'm curious. I had your colleague Adam Ibbotson in on Monday, and he was talking about what this means for his district, and he's having to take some pretty I don't want to call them drastic steps, but he's having to make some changes to how they do things, and I'm sure I'll hear that from other superintendents as I talk to them. What separates Clinton, where you're able to kind of absorb this? Like, where does that money come from for us?
Really, our tax base. If Clinton did not have the nuclear power plant, that separates us from, honestly, so many different districts. Now, different districts are going to get funded differently. Let's take Monticello, for example. They receive a considerable amount of money, and Mr. Clapp could kind of speak about this, because they receive the
corporate personal property replacement tax.
So they receive a lot of money because of that, way more than we do. And so now Maroa, they're going to fund their school differently. They literally do not have a power plant that's chipping in so much of that money. So in 2027, the assessed value of the plant will get reassessed. So that's kind of why.
So that's our buffer.
That's our buffer. That's why I'm doing, honestly, the bonding plan to get us to that point. So we'll have a new power plant assessed value in 2028, and then so as the county's collecting the money in 2028, they'll get paid out in 2029.
Gotcha. Very good. Well, Mr. Goebel, it's always good to see you, my friend. Thanks for making time for us.
Absolutely.
Very good. Mr. Drew Goebel, Superintendent of Clinton Schools, my guest in studio this morning. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance. Network News is now.
WHOW.